He's currently working as the Managing Director and CEO for Asian Paints, overlooking a business of more than 18,000 crores in India. He has been responsible for propelling the Asian Paints brand into a league of its own and has initiated a lot of new initiatives to grow the business over the last decade. Amit is closely associated with color and is the so-called game changer for bringing color into the Asian Paint strategy. He's also a member of the Color Marketing Group, USA, and a keen member of the Asian Paints Color Next Trends Group. He will be speaking on the topic navigating uncertainty through marketing and digital transformations. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, send in those emoticons, and let's welcome Mr. Amit Singhal, Managing Director and CEO, Asian Paints. A very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Khyati, for inviting me here, and grateful to the entire team from Exchange for Media, Anurag for inviting me here and making me the keynote speaker today. First of all, I heard the predictions made by Anurag, and I keep on hoping that someone makes the predictions about COVID as well in terms of how we go, because I think today in more than 80% of the sessions we kind of go to, I think the hot topic still is in terms of what's really happening around COVID and how do we see the kind of way ahead. I was there in terms of the Madison Pitch Media launch in terms of what the predictions were. And I think the great thing was to see that a lot of marketers, a lot of CMOs, and a lot of people who are steering the companies were still kind of optimistic in the current circumstances in terms of way the ad budgets would go, the way the scenarios would kind of pan out. And I think that's a strong feeling which kind of comes in, that even when we are facing this pandemic, we see a lot of silver lining which people are able to kind of see. So today I'm going to kind of speak on the current environment and see how digital is making a very, very strong impact in terms of leading the way and really changing the scenario, and how as a brand, we've done some stuff which we were able to kind of leverage the whole digital interface far more strongly, especially when during this environment we see there are far more eyeballs coming on to the digital medium in one way or the other. So I would just share my screen to give you a view in terms of my presentation. Just give me a minute. I'm just getting the presentation out. It's just taking 2 minutes. I would like people to just bear with it. Just opening the presentation. So I think it's a fairly interesting way in terms of what we are looking in terms of how we would kind of like to see the environment going up, and how in these times there are some things which we have been doing. I hope everyone is able to see my screen at this point of time, and I thought it would be good to kind of just take you through some of the initiatives we have done in terms of looking at how we have navigated today in terms of looking at this challenging market. So I want to speak about some 10 areas which I feel are the key, and some things which possibly gives us an insight in terms of what we can do and how we can take this forward. The first thing is, I think there is no point in terms of fighting and saying that it's a doomsday in terms of going ahead. It's something which we need to kind of say that we need to embrace this uncertainty as we go ahead. Today, when we look at the environment, lockdown, unprecedented, these are words which are part of the vernacular now, okay? And we don't see that there are too many things which are going to change in the immediate. And therefore, what we need to kind of see is that if this is the status and this is something which is going to stay for us, say for the next 6 months, how is it that we deal with this? Because I'm a believer that till the time that the vaccine comes in and the vaccine becomes slightly far more reachable, the scenario which is the current would exist. And all the curves which we keep on predicting, V curve, U curve, W curves, and S curves, I think that is very difficult to kind of predict in terms of what's going to happen. But I think what certainty is that such environment will continue, and within this environment, we will have to see how is it that we are able to kind of see the silver lining and do and really kind of galvanize the market in our own way. This crisis is unique, as we all know, because no one could have factored this thing happening in any kind of risk estimations and risk mitigation strategies. And therefore, we feel that this is obviously has led to a digital revolution by itself. Okay, so I think it has really brought the best, especially I think when we look at the whole digital way in terms of dealing with things, and it has really kind of got a lot of innovation, a lot of pioneering work in terms of what we are able to see around in terms of what's really happening. Today also what we see is that the buying behaviors, the customer segmentation, how we look at various cities, how we look at in terms of classifying certain cities, I think it's a whole new normal which is emerging. People habits are changing and will change. As we kind of look at today, today people are already kind of embracing, as Anurag also said, the whole bit in terms of everything coming at home. So whether it is Amazon, whether it is other marketplaces, or it is even something what we are kind of looking in terms of services at home. I think that's the new normal in terms of what is appearing as people are kind of uncertain in terms of really stepping out in this kind of environment. So I think lots of things are changing. And today we are saying that especially brands which are there in the zone of discretionary, I think that is something which they will have to keep on thinking, more innovation in terms of what they do. And our brand is one of that. And I think that's very, very important to kind of see that today in this new normal, how are we kind of going to embrace and see in terms of what we can do about this uncertainty as we go ahead. There is also the rising thing in terms of what's happening is about what is local. And combined with this, we feel that today the digital is really springing in very, very big ways. So whether it is the OTT channels which are emerging very strongly, or it is in terms of gaming which is there, we feel that the amount of time the eyeballs are glued in terms of any of the digital media, I think it is very, very important how we evoke and kind of really nurture digital in a big way as we kind of go ahead. The second thing which we look at in terms of going forward is in terms of saying that today you can't rely in terms of a standard marketing campaign. We need to be finally very, very dynamic in terms of what we are doing, because things are changing so fast. And if you are, on various medias in terms of trying to get the customer, you need to keep on adjusting your marketing campaigns in a very big way. Some examples which I wanted to give is that, for example, the whole area when the lockdown happened really at a national level around 21st of March, okay, the whole March, April was all about empathy. And I think we really looked at, and we were one of the first brands who kind of in that environment looked at saying, okay, can we shoot something and can we show customers across various digital mediums in terms of what empathy really means? And I think the response was something which was phenomenal in terms of the amount of views, the amount of brand tonality scores which you kind of got was something which was amazing. And I would like to show something which we are very proud of, shot within a span of 4 days in various homes without any studio, without any sophisticated equipment, something which we were able to put on air very strongly in a very short time. Let's take a look.
हर घर चुपचाप से ये कहता है, अच्छा लगता है जब सब कोई अंदर रहता है। कोई मेरे कानों पर लगे जाले उतार रहा है, कोई जाली में जमी धूल निकाल रहा है, कोई मेरे पैरों तले लगी फिसलन हटा रहा है, कोई खुद को नहीं मुझको संवार रहा है, कोई शायद ये कह रहा है यहाँ न कोई चिंता न कोई डर है। आखिर ये मेरा ही तो घर है। हर घर चुपचाप से ये कहता है, अच्छा लगता है जब सब कोई अंदर रहता है। Stay home, stay safe, Asian Paints.
Yeah, so we did 2 series. As I said, we were fairly dynamic in terms of adjusting our campaign, and I think this was a fast success in terms of what we got. We also looked at a lot of other ways in terms of getting the whole area of consumer engagement in this period. So whether it was something which we did, which was live from home and getting all the acclaimed singers on a platform, which is including Shankar Mahadevan and the likes, okay, or the series of campaign around Har Ghar, one of which you just saw, okay, or it was the moments around the mom moments which we created very strongly, small snippets which kind of really engage the customer very, very strongly in this environment. And we also did a very large thing which got us extremely high viewership, which was the Jaitu Jaitu Bharatam, in terms of kind of reaching to so many people across. And these were select singers who were shot in their homes. And I think that was the part which was important to us, because what we said, that we are embracing homes and we are part of the entire high voltage emotion which is there in the home, and that's something which we really evoked at that point of time. So I think some of this dynamic campaigns build that kind of a engagement, and I think really escalated the brand saliency in a very, very strong manner as we went by. We also did something which was really happening in the environment. There were doctors who were fighting, there were municipal corporation employees who were fighting on the forefront. There were ambulance drivers who were fighting on the forefront. And therefore, we did a small gesture in terms of saying that can we appreciate this work happening? And in a very short time, we were able to create something which we did in Mumbai at the Mahim Junction. Just take a look. So something very small, but I think something which really spread the positivity around in a very strong manner. And these were little nudges in terms of which we kept on giving as we went ahead. The other area around adjustment of various campaigns was the fact that we kind of gave a very, very strong push to innovation and looked at home services in a big way. Okay, so we looked at launching this whole service, which is the SanAssure service, which is sanitizing your homes. You know, a paint company elevating its status, getting into something like SanAssure. And we were in a very short time, in just about 40 days, we were able to reach about 10,000 customers, okay, through basically people calling us through various, voice medias and digital kind of interfaces. And today, I think we are proud that we are able to offer this not only through a physical footprint, which spreads across a huge amount of retailers, but also in terms of various ways where the customer is able to reach us. And today, in the current month, we've almost done about 35,000 homes in one single month in terms of reaching out. And we feel that this is something which has really given a huge credibility in terms of where the brand is, what the brand is doing, and really kind of invoking the at-home service in a very, very strong way. We really geared, as I spoke of, innovations, and in a very short span of about 10 days, we launched the entire range of sanitizers in a very big way. For some of you who do not know, it's a product which would require an FDA license and a huge amount of permissions which are required. So we started this at our own plants. This was done at the behest of the Ministry of Health in terms of looking at aiding the government and really supplying. So the first week of supplies really went to a lot of hospitals, to the government, to the NGOs in terms of looking at how we could reach out to them in terms of doing our bit around the pandemic as we kind of go ahead. So I think this is something which also gave a jump start to the SaniShow services, which I just spoke of, because you had the full range in terms of what you were offering to the customers in terms of sanitizing their homes. But I think the big thing which really kind of came to the reason is that we observed that there is a lot of metros and T1 cities where we saw that there was a huge paranoia around the people in terms of looking at not getting people into their homes. And we are all gone through it and we know the reason why. And we worked a lot in terms of saying that can we, as a brand, give this assurance that we have something so that people can really get a team of painters home who can do their painting in a manner which is very, very safe. And I think we felt that we were the first ones to kind of really appropriate a safe painting service in a very, very strong manner. And this campaign really went viral in terms of not only the digital interfaces which we did, but it was a 360 degrees campaigns across TV, across print, and so on and so forth. And I think the kind of response which we got really gave a flip to the business in a strong way, which was absolutely down at that point of time, because we saw that people were just not getting into the zone at all. And therefore, I think, just adjusting our campaign, and I just said that, keep the campaigns dynamic. It's not only that you stay with a certain campaign, because certain campaigns are giving a very, very different nuance. And there is something which is a call to action as well, which can happen, which can be very good for business as we kind of go ahead. Would just like to show you the campaign quickly in terms of what we did.
मैं देखता हूँ सुखेगा क्या गोल खिला रहा है। ये क्या जुगाड़ चल रहा है?
ये तो शूटिंग चल रही है।
हर जगह बॉलीवुड दिखाई देता है। ये तो क्राइम सीन लग रहा है।
मैं कह रही हूँ शूटिंग चल रही है। लगी 500 की।
फोन लगा रहा मट्ठा किसी को।
तुम्हारे लिए फोन है।
ये बोल दे किसी।
लोगों के घर में झांकना छोड़िए मकीजा, तू भी अपने घर में सेफ पेंटिंग करा ले।
अरे पेंटिंग करा है ये इस टाइप पे।
हाँ, शूटिंग के लायक होगा तेरा घर।
एशियन पेंट्स सेफ पेंटिंग सर्विस, मिस्ड कॉल दी 80504 80504 पे।
दोनों ही गलत निकले।
चलो 250 दो।
So again, a very popular campaign, got a lot of eyeballs, and shot during the COVID times with no studios and this thing. And I think something amazing which it did to the entire brand, really being at the top of the mind for the consumers. The third area which I thought is very important is that today a lot of consumers are searching for information, and whatever information and content, we have to kind of really see how we are able to really come up to speed and see that we are there in terms of giving that information and content which the customer really needs. So I think, first of all, we looked at a huge amount of digital tools to increase the process efficiencies. Please remember that this was COVID time when the call centers were, feeling stretched. A lot of call center employees were operating from home. And when people were searching and people were looking for information and content, we didn't want them to kind of really wait. And therefore, I think unleashed a series of tools, which is WhatsApp chatbots and Webchat tools, in terms of looking at holding the customer very, very strongly. So the customer really did not, feel that he's waiting and waiting in terms of looking at talking to someone and getting that content. And he was able to kind of get that very, very strongly. And that's something what we invoked. The second thing which we saw, this whole campaign, we got 1.5 lakh consultations delivered within 3.5 months of the launch. And I think that's phenomenal from the point of view of what we were able to really serve, and what it really kind of gave to the confidence of not only the retailers, but as well as the brand, in terms of really reaching out to these places. And a lot of this stuff happened in the metros and the T1, because what we found was that the T2, T3 cities were still kind of doing well, and it was the metros and the T1 which had to be invoked, and that paranoia need to go off. And I think this delivered in a very, very strong way in terms of looking what we did. So I think again, in terms of when we look at feeding content and getting that information which the customer really wants in a good way, this really happens very strongly. So that's the third thing in terms of what happened. The fourth thing quickly I wanted to tell is that, I think this whole area of understanding your existing customers and finding new customers is a constant battle. And we just can't give up that battle, because you can never be complacent about saying that I know in terms of the set which I'm reaching. And I think that's one endeavor at Asian Paints we continuously do, in terms of looking at newer and newer things. And this was a time when we were seeing that people wanted everything at home. And therefore, what we did, for the first time, any brand in India, we launched a DIY range, which is a do-it-yourself kind of a repair range. And I think this was launched through the e-com media at the marketplaces in a very, very strong way. And it really gave us a huge impetus. And there were some very simple products which fueled the need, and also kind of gives a lot of curiosity. One small product which you can use just as a spray to give a frost look to your glasses. Just something which came along on the marketplaces. In an environment when we used to say DIY in India is not possible, and we really kind of got this very strongly, and we were surprised that how circumstances, how environment really changes the thinking. And I think the number of people now buying a lot of these products is phenomenal. And I think that's a big success in terms of what we got in terms of looking at this. And therefore, I think this whole area of optimizing the e-com experiences by accelerating various digital options. And we looked at really supplementing the effort with lots of range. So whether it was the adhesives range for kids, something very attractive, or it was the wall stickers which came up, all things which you could kind of take up in the home and really kind of get involved with the brand in a very strong way. And that whole thinking that you interact with this brand once in 4 years or once in 5 years was something was really challenged, because now you are interacting with the brand almost every day. And I think that's something which possibly really give us a very, very good shift. The fifth point which I want to mention here is about whole area of the merging of the offline and the online experiences. And as we kind of keep on going ahead, I think COVID or no COVID, this is a very, very strong thing which would emerge for a lot of brands. So I think meeting your customers where they are today is important, and that is something which we looked at invoking through this whole area of Phygital in something in a very big way. So I think it's not only in terms of getting people and guiding people to some of these stores. So we have this AP Home Stores, which is a one-stop home decor shop. It's a 7,000 square feet showroom, which kind of gives you everything in terms of what you can do in the home, right from furniture to flooring to kitchen to bath, everything what you could desire. And I think a lot of stuff which was done around in terms of getting people from all over in terms of being guided through various methodologies so that the consumer traffic increases, and we look at the improving the in-shop experience through a lot of Phygital things which we did. And I think what we really invoked was the entire CRM in terms of really directing the consumers so that we are able to generate that leads in digital and get these people to our stores in a very, very strong way. And I think this is something which is an ongoing area which for a lot of brands would be very important, because today I think the online and the physical space has to coexist. It cannot just go online in terms of just e-com marketplace kind of a zone for future as we look at. And I think if both have to coexist, we need to see in terms of how do we marry them both in terms of making a win-win for the brand and for the consumer as well in terms of looking at future. The sixth area was helping the customers in a very, very new way, especially the whole area of B2B. How do you kind of reach out to these customers at this point of time? And when I say these customers, these are clearly the painters, the contractors who really influence everything at this point of time. And these are the real product ambassadors. What we started was something which was very amazing. We realized always that, a lot of these people have smartphones, and through the smartphones, we were able to kind of send them links through which we were able to kind of connect with almost 1.2 lakh painters, okay, and had various modules, short modules, where they would kind of come in, okay, hear about the product, get trained about the product, and then they would kind of really get in terms of the usage of the product. They will come in, go out, and I think this medium really helped us in a very, very strong way in terms of really invoking their attention at this point of time where they were worrying about their own livelihood and they were looking at in terms of what to do, but also to get their eyeballs in terms of training them very strongly for some of the products which they would have never heard. And I think it was a solid initiative where we found that in terms of the whether it was the language interface or whether we looked at in terms of the how many stuff which was downloaded by these people across the country, I think it was phenomenal in terms of the stuff which we got. And now we are taking this medium in a very strong way in terms of connecting with these people for the future. And this goes into various vernacular languages, various regions, and so on and so forth in a very strong way. And I think this becomes really an epitome in terms of saying that today, when you have these product ambassadors who are using your products in and out, how you keep on kind of adding value to them strongly through this whole digital medium in a very strong way. So I think that's the other thing in terms of what really happened. And one thing which we are very proud of is the fact that we also felt that we are responsible for their livelihood. Okay, so we transferred about 40 crores of money to their direct accounts as well. And not only that, for a lot of people who were going home because of the migration which was happening at that point in time, we ran a campaign and we were able to kind of really get a lot of people back because we were looking at giving them livelihood in a very strong way. One of my favorite films, take a look.
अरे वाह, ये किसके लिए?
ये चिंटू के लिए।
बहुत सुंदर है।
पापा, आजकल आपका पेंटिंग का काम बंद है, लेकिन चिंटू की बर्थडे लिस्ट बहुत लंबी है। बैट, बॉल, कार। मैंने सोचा मैं उसके लिए कार बना लेता हूँ। पापा,
हंसी खुशी की ढोली, थोड़ी सी आँख में चोली।
तो चलो इसे और सुंदर बनाते हैं।
हंसी खुशी की ढोली, थोड़ी सी आँख में चोली अपनों के सपनों में लगा दे हम पहले बस इतनी सी ख्वाहिश हमें और क्या चाहिए क्यों नन्हे नन्हे ख्वाबों से लुका छिपी खेले चलो आगे बढ़कर हम अपने जिम्मे ले ले
पापा
आधी लिस्ट तूने की, आधी मैंने कर दी।
यूं जीने के हो सलीके कभी ख्वाब
मेरी
बेटा, तुम लोगों के खेलने की उम्र है, तुम लोग खेलो, पापा काम कर लेंगे।
यूं जीने के हो सलीके कभी ख्वाब पड़े ना भीगे कभी ख्वाब पड़े ना भीगे
A phenomenal response again, and you know, whenever I see this film, it's something which really makes you very strongly emotional in terms of what it does. But it really worked very well, strongly with us in terms of going forward. The seventh area, which is also very strong, and I think this is no surprise for the marketers, is in terms of be keen to be listening to your customers always. You know, because I strongly feel the day you can keep you away from listening to consumers and just get glued onto your screens in your AC cabins, I think you're gone. But I think what we said that was that are there ways in terms of we can kind of leverage you know, some of the you know, the techniques which are coming, you know, today Anurag spoke of some of the techniques on AI and other things which are kind of happening, and that's something which we invoked very strongly in looking at some of our films. Before that, let's take a look at one of the films in terms of where we tried using some of these techniques.
यार चिंटू, तेरा घर तो बहुत शाइन कर रहा है।
थैंक्स।
अरे लाइट के पास तो और भी शाइन कर रहा है।
करेक्ट।
यार तेरे पास तो बहुत पैसा होगा।
अरे पूछो मत यार।
तो छुट्टियों में पक्का फॉरेन जाएगा।
सिंगापुर।
सिंगापुर? वाह,
चिंटू, छुट्टियों में हम कोल्हापुर जा रहे हैं। ट्रेन की टिकट मिल गई। बच्चा पार्टी, आप सबके लिए चप्पल लाएंगे।
कोल्हापुर? नहीं सिंगापुर।
जब अंदर लगेगा एशियन पेंट्स ट्रैक्टर शाइन, तो महंगा ही दिखेगा। ये है शाइन वाला पेंट।
So I think we tried something on this film, and what we tried was you know, facial coding in a strong way, and we chose you know, more than about 375 customers across, where basically we were able to kind of with their permission, obviously, you know, and with their webcams on, we could kind of see the various expressions, whether it was of joy or whether it was frowning. We could kind of really map in terms of how it kind of really goes. And the peaks which you see are the areas where people could feel very strongly in terms of where the film is really working for them. And I think we thought that it is a very strong way in terms of really taking the entire research process forward in a very strong way in terms of what's really working for a film, how it kind of works, and it can generate a score, which is what is something like a valence which comes in, which gives you indication in terms of where it goes. And obviously you can compare it with various brands in terms of how it is working, so you know the relativity in terms of going forward. And this technique then tomorrow can be combined with even neural, where you can give a gear to the consumer and you could kind of really see how the brain is really working along with the face in terms of how the coordination is happening and how the film is really working for us, which has given a real impetus in terms of leveraging the digital world very, very strongly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Singhal. This has been wonderful. I feel like the direct companion for people can get back to whenever they are in trouble. The transformation of being digital, innovating, and yet keeping the emotion of the consumers in check. I think that was amazing. I really enjoyed this presentation. I'm sure all our viewers have enjoyed it too and taken a lot of takeaways from it. So thank you so much, Mr. Singhal.
Thank you, Kathy, so much. If there are any questions, I can quickly take a question. If there is anything, otherwise, I think the next speaker can come in.
So we've received a lot of questions, but because of the paucity of time and the next speaker being here, we'd have to take that offline. And I would encourage everybody to please join us in this online conversation on Twitter using the hashtag TechMunch. So thank you so much, Mr. Singhal, for your time and for this very detailed, wonderful presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.